Hello everyone. Hi how's you doing? How's your going on? Hope you yourself doing well and hope you yourself keeping yourself well. So we have been joined by CM Ratul Gupta all the way from Dubai. So the purpose of this meeting is to gather information about GST as well as the VAT. We are coming up with the procedural requirement. Vidul, can you just explain us about who all are required to get registered under the VAT?
Yes, so the registration thing works in two ways. So the first thing is that you can apply for a voluntary based registration wherein the threshold is kept at 187,500 dirhams. Now this has to be seen in two ways. One is the historical test, wherein over a period of 12 months, if a if a business entity is meeting this particular threshold, then he can apply voluntarily to the federal tax authorities here and apply under the voluntary based registration. The second one is the future test, wherein if his supply of goods or services on a sales side or on an expense side is crossing this threshold requirement, then also he can apply for a registration with the FTA.
Okay.
So for a voluntary based registration, the expense turnover, or the sales turnover is to be seen in order to apply for the registration. The second one is the mandatory based registration, wherein the mandatory threshold limit is 375,000 dirhams. Uh, Again, for this, the historical test and the future test remains the same. However, in this case, the expense based turnover is not there. So only sales based turnover is to be seen in order to compute the registration threshold limit. Now, this threshold limit also includes your imports of goods as well as services. So, merely for the computation of this turnover, the importation of goods or services made by such applicants is also to be considered in computing this. Then another interesting part of the registration thing here is that you can have a tax group based registration, wherein there are certain conditions which needs to be met, which typically is around common control, common ownership of more than one entities by a single owner. So if those requirements are met, then all such entities will be having a single registration number, and they will be under the umbrella of a single tax group, which will be represented by a representative entity. So the FTA would be identifying such tax group on the basis of this particular rep entity. And the best part is that all these entities put together would only need to file a single VAT return to the authorities. So you have a tax group based registration, then you have a single registration, wherein there is a single registration for each of the entities. Over to you.
Okay. Thank you so much. So as far as the India is concerned, the limit for the GST registration in India is in case of goods. If we are supplying goods, we have to see whether it exceeds 40 lakh in a year in the previous year. So we have a turnover of more than 40 lakhs, then we are supposed to get ourselves registered under GST. So this and 20 lakhs in case of services we have to see. So these two limits are applicable only in case of intrastate supply. So if we are doing the intrastate supply, then only we are required to see the registration limit. That is the 40 lakh and the 20 lakh. So if we are doing any intrastate, so there are certain conditions where you are supposed to get yourself registered mandatorily irrespective of your turnover. So there are multiple cases wherein first case is the interstate supply. In case of interstate supply, you are not supposed to see the limit. You are supposed to get yourself registration on the first day only. And if you are paying tax on a reverse charge basis, so this is another word, reverse charge. Reverse charge is a big term. We will consider this one in our next video. So I'm just briefing you about this one. Or tax payable under reverse charge, aggregator of services, non-resident taxable persons, casual taxable persons, IST, e-commerce operators, TDS who is required to deduct TDS, and multiple other things are there where you have to register yourself mandatory. And optionals are there. Optional in case of voluntarily registration, you can do the voluntarily registration. You can do the registration on a vertical business vertical basis also. On a vertical, if you have multiple verticals, you can get yourself registration under different verticals also. And there is one more scheme, that is the compounding scheme. It is a composition scheme. So there is a threshold limit of 1.5 crore. If you are having a turnover of 1.5 crore, you can get yourself registered under the composition scheme. So this is the snapshot of the registration which is required to be done. I think that is the moreover Vidul has told us about the UAE, and I have told you about the GST part. So let's come up with the what is the registration aspect? So how many digits of registration is there in UAE VAT? So any specific nomenclature is there?
Yeah, so there is, when it comes to the varieties of the way in which you can apply for registration is, as I said, is voluntary and mandatory. The difference is the threshold limit for them. Then there are only two types of registration. One is single registration and the other one is the tax group registration.
Yeah. So as far as the India is concerned, we have a 15-digit GST number. So first two digit represents the state code. So we have 28 state, 29 states we have, and so we have a state code for each state. And so first two states represent a state code, and next 10 digits represent a PAN number of the SAC. So that is the unique one. So if you have multiple registrations in the different state, so this PAN number will remain unique, and although state code will change on state to state basis, but PAN number will remain same. And 13, 14, 15 digit. So this is totally depends on the state authorities. They will assign these numbers. So this is all about the GST registration number. So let's come up with the returns aspect. So as we are talking about the compliance aspect, return is the more important aspect which one assessee is required to file. So what all compliances are required to be done by the UAE VAT assessee in terms of return filing?
Yes,
Mridul?
so majorly here there are at the moment right now there are only two periodicities for filing VAT return. One is the monthly return and the other one is the quarterly return. The return is to be filed within 28 days of the end of each month or quarter, as the case may be. If that 28th day falls on a public holiday, then it gets postponed to the immediate next working day. Right. So yes, so there are only two periodicities right now. However, the government also talks about uh, providing a 6 monthly, half yearly based tax return. But I don't think so that has been effective as yet. One more very important aspect here is the return filing here for various registrants works on a staggered basis. So the stagger means that at the time of introduction of VAT year, for the monthly filers, obviously the return filing was on a monthly basis. So for the month of January 2018, they had to file their first VAT return by 28th of February 2018. However, for registrants who were provided with a quarterly filing, they had first VAT return period of different periods. So for few of them, the first VAT return was for the period of 3 months. For few, it was 4 months. For other few, it was for 5 months, and thereafter it was on a quarterly basis. So by changing this period, the government very smartly divided their workload in terms of these quarterly filers would be having their subsequent quarterly filings in varying tax periods, in varying months. So accordingly, the the pressure on the business community, or for, let's say, there are multiple entities managed by a single business owner, so his VAT returns would fall on varying months and not on the same period. So this was very smartly done by them. However, there is also an option given by the authority here, that in case if you wish to change your stagger to suit uh, the financial year which has been maintained by them, and also, which could help them in also auditing their records. Uh, so they can, at any point in time, they can apply to FTA explaining them the reason behind changing the stagger, and make choice of the period which they wish to choose as the filing for the VAT return year. So all in all, very flexible thing here, as well as the return format. If you see, it is a very simplified version. It looks more like filling up a form, rather than getting into the various complexities that we have
Mm,
under the GST returns, the
mm,
GSTR 1, 2, 3.
mm,
So it's more or less a one and a half pager
mm,
form based VAT return. Looks very simple, and it is very simple at the moment. Apart from the varying complexities in terms of determining the tax rates and
mm.
all, once you are done with it, the return filing, the return preparation process would hardly take you 5 minutes or something. So that way, it is very simple.
Filing. So I would like to tell you about the Indian return filing. So as far as the Indian return filing is concerned, so we are supposed to file two returns, not the three returns. Earlier it was three returns, but it was the second return was got eliminated, and it got into abeyance as of now. So the first return is the monthly return, which is the outward supply return. So where we have to give the details of the outward supplies which we have made during the period. So the outward supply return is required to be filed on a monthly or a quarterly basis. So as far as a monthly is concerned, so who is having a turnover of more than 5 crores are supposed to file return on a monthly basis. That is the 10th or the 11th. And who is having a turnover of less than 5 crores are required to file their return on quarterly basis. Quarterly last date of the month corresponding to the quarter. So that is the return date for the GSTR1, which is the outward supply, and the other return is the monthly return. That is the payment return, which is called as a 3B, GSTR 3B. So this 3B includes all the details of the summary of the outward supplies as well as the input tax credit, which is required to be filled in. And post that, whatever that liability comes out, you are supposed to pay the liability and file the return. So that is required to be filed on a monthly basis. Earlier it was on a 20th of next month, but as what Mridul has told us regarding the staggering of the dates, so similar is the case in the India. So we have three staggered dates in India. That is the 22nd, 24th, and the 20th. Three dates are there where you are supposed to file your returns on the basis of your states. So it is divided into different states in order to simplify it and in order to reduce the burden of the system. So these two returns are required to be filed on monthly or the quarterly basis, and one is the return, that is the annual return, and the audit return, which is 9 and 9C, which is required to be filed on yearly basis, once in a year. So file you have to get yourself audited when you have a turnover of more than 5 crore, and you have to file 9 GST and 9, it is the annual return, if you are having a turnover of more than 2 crore. So more than 2 crore is 9, and more than 5 crore is the 9C, that is the audit return. So these four returns are there. You're supposed to file, and it totally depends on the turnover and the details. Videos on the similar topics, wherein we will cover the specific areas such as the input tax credit in brief in detail, as well as the export transactions, as well as the refund aspect, how to claim the refunds, and others also. So we will take up. So this video is all about a brief introduction of GST and the VAT. We will cover other aspects also in the times to come. So thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Mridul, for joining us from from different country altogether. We will be uh, hoping to continue in the same proposition as of now, and hopefully uh, we will we will continue the same in the future. Thank you guys for joining us, and please do subscribe our YouTube channel HPKV in the name, so you can get the link and you can able to subscribe our YouTube channel. So this channel is all about the professional updates in terms of taxes as well as the accounting aspect. So please do subscribe our YouTube channel. Thank you, Mritul. Any last word from your side, uh, which we can collaborate with,
Yes,
which we
thank you. Thank you so much, Pratik and team. Yes, any feedback, please provide your comments, and we would be very happy, to look forward to your
Hmm.
suggestions and feedback, and we would work on those areas as well. Hope you have
Definitely,
liked our video, the content, the information, and feel free to reach us out. Thank you.
definitely. We will mention our email IDs on the context of the video. You can able to access that, and you can send us an email on that. So thank you, and please do give the feedback of our videos whenever possible. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.